McPherson had an idea that all was not right, for our line was allowed to advance no further than the one the rebels had left, and we were set to work changing its front. At dinner, when we were about leaving the table, Captain Smith mentioned hearing some heavy skirmishing in our rear as we came to our meal. That was the first any of us knew of the battle. In a few minutes, we all heard it plainly, and from our works could see exactly in our rear a body of graycoats advance from a wood, and the battle opened, although we did not know what troops of ours were engaged. Hi, my name is Bill Coughlin, and host the First Person Civil War podcast. While the generals of both sides get most of the recognition, the Civil War was fought by the men in the ranks, and they told their stories during and after the war. Follow me as I reveal what these men witnessed in the battles of the Civil War. Episode 56 is entitled Captain Charles W. Wills in the 103rd Illinois at the Battle of Atlanta, and relies on the book published by Mary E. Kellogg entitled Army Life of an Illinois Soldier, including a day-by-day record of Sherman's March to the Sea, letters, and diary of the late Charles W. Wills, which she published in 1906. Charles Wright Wills was born in Canton, Illinois on 17 April 1840, and lived in that town until he left to attend the State Normal School, which would eventually become Illinois State University. At the outbreak of the Civil War, Charles Wills enlisted as a private in Company E of the 8th Illinois, a 90-day regiment, where he was quartered in Cairo, Illinois, to guard the meeting of the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. After completing that enlistment, Charles Wills re-enlisted in the 7th Illinois Cavalry as a sergeant, where in early 1862 he received a promotion to first lieutenant and assigned as the adjutant of the 3rd Battalion. The regiment saw service in Tennessee under General Rosecrans and participated in the Siege of Corinth. In August of 1862, the Union Army published orders that did away with battalion adjutants, which effectively mustered Charles Wills out of service, unless he could find a new position in the Army. Rather than taking several adjutant positions offered to him, Charles Wills decided to raise a company of his own. The book does not give a date of the company's formation, only a brief edit between diary entries. He came home and raised a company in the 103rd Illinois Infantry and was elected captain. Given that the previous diary entry was in late August in Tuscumbia, Alabama, and the following at Camp Peoria, Illinois on 3 October, Captain Wills managed to accomplish this task and raised the company for service sometime in September, and mustered in as Company G in the 103rd Illinois on 2 October 1862. The 103rd Illinois saw service at the Siege of Vicksburg, and saw their first true action at Chattanooga. By May, Captain Wills and the 103rd Illinois began marching toward Atlanta, Georgia, in Colonel Charles W. Walcutt's 2nd Brigade, of Brigadier General William Harrow's 4th Division, of Major General John A. Logan's 15th Corps, of Major General John B. McPherson's Army of the Tennessee, of the Military District of the Mississippi, commanded by Major General William Tecumseh Sherman. Following the victory at the Battle of Chattanooga in late 1863, the Union Army saw a major change in its command structure, with the appointment of Ulysses S. Grant to General-in-Chief with the rank of Lieutenant General. Grant devised a plan for the summer of 1864, which called for advances across several fronts in the South, and Major General Sherman's army would play a key role with its advance upon Atlanta, a city located in the Deep South it was a manufacturing and logistical hub for the Confederacy, and seizing the city could prove a significant blow to the Confederate war effort. In early May, Major General Sherman set out from Chattanooga with his army of approximately 100,000 men intent on capturing this city. Opposing him was General Joseph E. Johnston and the Army of Tennessee, which numbered approximately 50,000 men. Where Johnston attempted to establish strong defensive positions for the Union to assault, Sherman preferred to march his army around the Confederate flanks. On the march south was Captain Wills and the 103rd Illinois, who fought in several battles, which included Resaca, Dallas, and also participated in the disastrous charges upon Kennesaw Mountain. By July, Sherman and his men were at the outskirts of Atlanta and had surrounded the city from the east, north, and west. General Johnston's defensive strategy had failed, and on 17 July was replaced by the more aggressive General John B. Hood. Hood shifted to the attack on 20 July at the Battle of Peachtree Creek, but was unable to find success in the north. Hood then turned his attention east upon the Army of the Tennessee, which consisted of the 16th, 17th, and 15th Corps, where Captain Wills and the 103rd Illinois still resided. Decatur, Georgia, July 19, 1864. Tonight we are in Decatur, 6 miles from Atlanta. The rebels were yet in Atlanta this morning, for they ran a train to this burg this morning, but they may now be gone. Our line of battle crosses the railroad nearly at right angles, facing Atlanta. Our cavalry had some fighting after 1 p.m. today. A citizen says there was nearly 4,500 rebel cavalry here. A small portion of our mounted forces made a half charge on the Johnnies just this side of town, and the rebels stampeded. Our men, as usual, stopped in town to flank the onions, potatoes, chickens, and sundries, which they were busily engaged when the rebels, who had rallied and got a battery in position, opened right lively. Our men drove them away, and then all hands went to foraging again. The Army of the Tennessee eventually pushed through Decatur and entrenched 3 miles from Atlanta, by Captain Wills's estimation, and faced a Confederate corps commanded by Major General Benjamin Cheatham. The 15th Corps straddled the Georgia Railroad leading to Decatur, while the 17th Corps extended the line south, and the 16th Corps posted 1 division on the Army's right flank, with the rest held in reserve. 3 days later, while Hood advanced upon Peachtree Creek, Captain Wills and his company received a tasking that took them off the line. July 20, 1864. Assembly is just sounded. In a few hours, we will know if it is to be a fight. Frank says, that is, Frank B. Lermond, the regimental sergeant major, Frank says we are detailed for train guard. If the Army marches right into Atlanta, I'll think it damned mean. But if there is a fight, we'll not feel so badly, unless we can get a big fight out of Johnston. I want to help in that. We have moved up near the town the Army has gone on. Can hear heavy guns occasionally. Sounds about 3 miles away, half the distance to the city. The next day, the 103rd Illinois set to work improving the fortifications within their brigade line. With 1 line of entrenchments already complete, Captain Wills and his men set to work on a line of entrenchments even closer to the Confederates. Just as we started, a heavy rain set in and continued while we marched 1 1/2 miles to the left, where we stacked arms in rear of a line occupied by the 6th Iowa. The rebel line lay in plain sight, just across an open field, and the bullets made us keep pretty close. At sunset, we were ordered to extend, or rather build a line of works to hold our regiment between the 6th Iowa and 40th Illinois. We had fairly commenced, and the boys were scattered everywhere, bringing rails, logs, etc., when the Johnnies' bugles sounded forward, and the rebels raised a yell and fired a couple volleys into us. There was a lively rush for our guns. but we saw through it in a minute, and in 3 minutes we were at work again. While Captain Wills and the 103rd Illinois dug their trenches, General Hood ordered Lieutenant General William J. Hardee's Corps to march through the night to attack the Army of the Tennessee's left flank. While Hardee attacked the flank, Cheatham's Corps would assault the 15th and 17th Corps head-on, but the timing of these two assaults were disjointed, and Cheatham attacked first. However, the Confederates that faced Captain Wills and the 103rd Illinois did not advance upon the Union works. They retreated. We got our works in shape about daylight, which was 22 July. And about 8 a.m., I heard a cheer from our skirmishers and saw the rebel skirmishers run right over their works like deer. Our line followed them and took possession of their works. And no rebel or works being in sight, and our boys knowing they were only 2 miles from Atlanta, thought sure they had the town, and all started on the double quick for it, yelling potatoes or tobacco, or what he particularly hankered for. Confederate reports from Cheatham's Corps are scarce, but even Brigadier General Walcott, brigade commander of the 103rd Illinois, confirms this retreat. The enemy evacuated his works during the night. Skirmishers were advanced about a mile. The line was moved forward to occupy the abandoned works, which were immediately reversed. The position of the brigade was on the left of the division, connecting with the right of the 17th Corps. In fact, according to Major General Logan's report following the battle, the entire Confederate line abandoned their works for a stronger line closer to Atlanta, and the 15th Corps as a whole occupied the empty trenches. The Confederates abandoning their works in front of the 15th Corps was not the only movement noticed on the night of 21 July, as reports of General Hood's flank movement reached Major General McPherson, the Army of the Tennessee's commander. General Leggett, who was a division commander of the 17th Corps, reports having seen at least 10 regiments of infantry passing in that direction, meaning south. I have strengthened that portion of the line with all available troops I have got, and I will simply remark in closing that I have no cavalry as a body of observation on my flank, and that the whole rebel army, except for Georgia militia, is not in front of the Army of the Cumberland. Now facing south to meet the expected Confederate flank attack was the 16th Corps, extending the 17th Corps' line. At about noon, Lieutenant General Hardee's Corps attacked the 16th and 17th Corps. From their newly won trenches, Captain Wills and the 103rd Illinois heard the sound of fighting behind them. McPherson had an idea that all was not right, for our line was allowed to advance no further than the one the rebels had left, and we were set to work changing its front. At dinner, when we were about leaving the table, Captain Smith mentioned hearing some heavy skirmishing in our rear as we came to our meal. That was the first any of us knew of the battle. In a few minutes, we all heard it plainly, and from our works could see exactly in our rear a body of graycoats advance from a wood, and the battle opened, although we did not know what troops of ours were engaged. Major General Claiborne's division of Hardee's Corps saw initial success where the lines of the 17th and 16th Corps met. On the extreme right of the advance was Lieutenant Thomas L. Flint of the Consolidated 6th Texas Infantry and 15th Texas Cavalry, who took command during the fight. After moving forward about 1.5 miles through a dense wood, which caused considerable maneuvering to keep in line with the Corps, we found the enemy and moved on him immediately. Owing to the noise and confusion attending to such circumstances and the confounding orders passed down the line from the left, the 16th and 15th Texas became cut off from the balance of the brigade. Though a bit brief in his description, the Texans had just pushed back the brigade commanded by Colonel William Hall, who held the 17th Corps' left flank. The brigade was in position on the extreme left of our line. About 12 p.m., my line of skirmishers were driven in, and the enemy advanced in force upon my front and flank, opening a severe fire of musketry and artillery. This position was held, pouring up heavy and continuous fire into the enemy, and checking them until completely flanked, and I was ordered to retire. In this retreat, a part of his brigade was cut off and surrounded, and he continues, "This position was held, repeatedly repulsing the enemy, until the right of the 15th Iowa was flanked, when the brigade retired again, but in some confusion, and formed in the rear of the same work and a portion of the works of the 3rd Division. Even in this position, the Confederates flanked Colonel Hall's brigade. As a result of the series of retreats, a gap formed between the 17th and 16th Corps, and reinforcements were needed to plug the hole in the line. One of the brigades that marched toward the gap included the 103rd Illinois under Colonel Walcott. The 16th Corps were already engaged. The 17th Corps were fighting and endeavoring to change their position. It soon became evident that the enemy were pushing a column through the gap. Artillery and straggling wagons were coming through the timber to the rear of the 17th Corps, followed up closely by the enemy. I at once changed my front to the left rear and just got in position in time to check the tide. My brigade soon became engaged and repulsed that advancing line. The enemy then turned upon the 17th Corps, which gave me an enfilading fire upon them. For Lieutenant Flint and the 6th and 15th Texas, there was no option but to retreat. At this time, it also became evident that our support on the right had not come up. Most likely Major General Walker's division, which was by that time attacking in the gap toward the 16th Corps, and he continues, "The enemy perceiving, which immediately flanked us, and we were compelled to fall back." What was intended to be a simultaneous advance of both Hardee's and Cheatham's corps became disjointed, and for the remainder of the day, Captain Wills and the 103rd Illinois marched to several points on the battlefield to strengthen the Union line against repeated Confederate assaults. During the battle, our regiment changed position 3 times, facing east, west, and south. We helped repulse 4 charges, took 115 prisoners, and helped take 400 more. Also ran the enemy out of a line of works they had taken from our 3rd Brigade. And the best of it is, we only lost 10 men. I cannot for the life of me see how we escaped so well. General Blair, the 17th Corps commander, is reported to have said that the Army of the Tennessee is eternally disgraced for going outside of all precedent in refusing to be whipped when attacked in flank and rear, as well as in front. The Battle of Atlanta marked another Union victory on the outskirts of the city, and both sides settled into siege operations and raiding through most of August. Following their victory at the Battle of Jonesboro, Sherman's army occupied Atlanta, which marked the end of the campaign. Captain Wills and the 103rd Illinois would stay in Atlanta while Major General Sherman consolidated his position and planned his next move. On 15 November, Sherman began his march to the sea, with Captain Wills and the 103rd Illinois leading the 15th Corps on the first day of the march. The entire army would eventually seize Savannah, Georgia, before marching through South Carolina and ending the war in North Carolina. Charles Wills rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel and afterward moved to Louisiana, where he started a sugar business. Upon his death in 1883, his body was interred in his hometown of Canton, Illinois. Throughout the war, Charles Wills kept a diary of his experiences in the Army, but did not publish them in his lifetime. In 1906, his sister, Mary E. Kellogg, published his diary entitled Army Life of an Illinois Soldier, including a day-by-day record of Sherman's march to the sea, letters, and diary of the late Charles W. Wills. Thank you for listening to the 56th episode. The link to Captain Will's book is now available on the podcast website, firstpersoncivilwarpodcast.com. Just as a note, all the links are open source. On Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn this week, you will find a picture of Charles Wills, either as a major or lieutenant colonel. Also on these social media accounts, you will find Captain Wills' diary entries from 15 November to 21 December of what he saw during Sherman's march to the sea. This next episode will be unique in that I will also examine the primary source and attempt to piece together parts of a story that has remained unknown since December 7, 1862, alongside the first-person account of the battle. To give myself enough time to account for the upcoming holiday and to celebrate 2 years of the podcast, I have decided to publish the next episode on 7 January 2026. Merry Christmas, everyone! To celebrate 2 years of first-person Civil War podcast, I have decided to celebrate it with another special episode that is unlike any other I have done before, as this man's name is unknown. On 7 January, the unknown soldier of Company A, 19th Iowa, provides next episode's first-person account at the Battle of Prairie Grove. My name is Bill Coughlin, and thank you for listening to First Person Civil War Podcast.